Hi, for this series of videos, we're going to look at another approach to painting using a simple object as a still life. I have an example of a thumbnail from the stock photography website, and it is a simple vintage toy. And I'm going to use this image for reference a couple of ways. The basic file setup here involves extending my canvas twice its width. So I have the width of the original image that I want to reproduce, and then I've doubled the width of the canvas so that I can have an area to paint in. Having a copy of the image adjacent to the area that I'm working in is analogous to having the subject right there in front of you if you were painting a still life from reality. So whether you have the subject to the left of your canvas or to the right or above or below, that's entirely up to you. So this can be configured a variety of ways. Actually, me being left-handed, I probably would prefer things to be the opposite way. So why not change that? So I'm going to go ahead and just do a flip. Okay, why not? So I'm left-handed, and even though one of the advantages to working with a pen tablet is that your hand is never going to be over the subject that you're painting. However, somehow just mentally this feels more natural. Reaching over my left side of my body is reaching out and touching the object here, whereas if it was back over here, I still kind of feel like my hand is in the way and my arm is in the way, even though it literally is not. This is a little weird, subtle thing that just kind of comes down to personal preference. So rather than totally shuffling everything around, I'm just going to flip the canvas. Okay, let's look at my layer setup. And then in the next video, we'll talk about this blocking in stuff. All right, so I have, let's go through the stack. First layer is just my reference image. So this can be a photograph of an object that you've chosen to paint in grayscale and later in color. And then I duplicate it on the opposite side after making my canvas twice as wide. The duplicate image then receives a color fill adjustment layer. And in order to do that, I made a selection. I can use my rectangular marquee. It'll be a little clearer if I do it that way. And then I went over to my add my solid color adjustment layer. I chose a color that was kind of a middle gray, not too dark, not too light. I'll explain why later. Okay, and then I took the opacity down to about 70%. Remember, when you have a selection and then you create any one of these adjustment layers, the selection becomes a layer mask for that adjustment layer. So instead of filling the entire canvas, the entire width of my canvas with gray, the area that was selected gets the gray fill, and then everything else gets masked out automatically. So that's how the layer mask works. Black blocks and white reveals. This is a hole, basically, that lets you see the gray. So I want to be able to see the details on the thing that I'm going to trace, if I decide to trace. But I want to be able to see my marks as I draw. So if I try to trace with this way that it is, it's going to be hard to see. This lets me see my line work as I go. And I'm going to start with my lines in order to contain what's going to become my first value study. And then I can have another layer on top for some coloring technique. So recall the coloring techniques we used for the grayscale illustrations from last week. We're going to use a similar technique this week with something that we painted ourselves. Okay, so that's an overview of the setup for the file. Next, I'm going to demonstrate the line stage and maybe a little bit of value stage. Okay, that's it.